This past week, I may have spent more time than is normal thinking about this coming episode and what were they going to do. Is it going to be what I thought, which would be about 100% flashback? And I was correct. The episode is pretty much 100% flashback. The trailer for the episode as well both showed that they were going to go back to the Space Museum part, which was a big part of the game 2, where they actually did a lot. It was pretty similar to the games, and the episode itself was actually written by Neil Druckmann. And considering that he wrote the game, I'm wondering how much he had to actually really change. Like, could he just kind of like copy and paste half of it, add a few things here, take out a few things there? There are some things that added that wasn't in the game that I was expecting it to be a flashback, but I wasn't expecting the episode to open with a flashback within the flashback. They're doing some Inception flashback shit. It's weird because this is from the perspective of Ellie, so this is Ellie's flashback, even though it happens right in the middle of her possibly killing Nora, as we still don't know if that's what she did at the end of the last episode. But now here we are, and the show opens with showing Joel as a kid. It still just felt like more filler, and again, just like last episode last week, to me this just felt like filler. I mean, and yes, it's based around pretty much 95% of the game. This entire episode is just showing the years that Joel and Ellie had between when they first moved to Jackson until Ellie hits 19. So it was really nice to see basically the only episode between Joel and Ellie where they're just having a relationship, surrogate daughter and dad. So it was nice to see just that for once. All of last season was just them in peril at all times. It was great to see them just have some good times together, and there's definitely a lot of shot-for-shot moments, especially at the Space Museum. So they essentially went through every year that Ellie and Joel have been living in Jackson from when she was 14. They begin with her 15th birthday. Seth made him a cake, but you spell Ellie like Eli. I thought that was pretty funny. So we go through the last 5 years of Ellie's life, essentially. And her and Joel's relationship got stronger, of course, and it was really beautiful to see them just being a daughter and a dad for once. So it was great to see that, and we're not going to see that for the rest of the season. And will we see Joel at all in season 3? I'm sure there's still going to be some flashbacks. By season 3, I can't even think of any reason as to why they would still have Joel in the show. Because as soon as I saw the opening, I said, oh, are they going to seriously do a flashback within a flashback? So, but yes, it opens with a younger Joel and Tommy. And Tommy was always the troublemaker, and he got in trouble. So their dad comes home, and their dad's a cop. It reminded me of the opening of last episode, where we open with this new Hanaran character who comes in and has a conversation with this lady, and then it's over, and then we never see either of them again for the rest of the episode. And now here we go again. We open episode 6, flashback scene with Joel and his brother, and then his dad coming in, and they're having a little conversation. They're not insinuating. He straight up says that he beats both of them, and maybe Tommy gets it worse, maybe Joel gets it worse, because Tommy's kind of the pain in the ass. But it all just ends up with his dad saying a quote about, well, you know, my grandfather did as good best he can, and I'll do a little bit better, and hopefully when your turn comes, you can do a little bit better. So we had this quote little moment. I felt immediately that entire scene was already throwaway. I'm really a big stickler about shows continuing along the story and not just wasting time, and it bugs the hell out of me when they waste time. Even the last episode where there were actual 5-second pauses before people would talk. I'm obsessed with every bit of time of a show that I watch being important, useful time. At the same time, I still don't really think we needed to see it. Even though it's a big chunk of the game and it's pretty much taken out of the game 100%. At the end of season 1, you could tell that Ellie, she didn't say it out loud. She didn't really want to admit it. There was a look on her face. Season 1 ends with her just looking at Joel saying, okay. And that's how the entire season ends. Well, she does know. She always knew, even though they never wanted to say it out loud, but it finally comes to. But I did like the change they made here, where in the games, there is a character named Eugene, but we never get to see him. We only see a picture of him. In the show, they had created Gail, this therapist, doctor type character. Joel goes to see, and we learn that Joel actually killed Eugene for reasons that ended up being pretty much what I thought. She straight up says in episode 1 that he killed Joel killed Eugene. And I figured, well, it's probably because he got bit. And that is what happened. Ellie, being that she was bit and never got infected, she did have a little bit of experience in how long it takes for someone to turn. Though I'm not sure how she would know, considering that she didn't turn. Eugene's begging to see Gail one last time. And Joel doesn't want to, but Ellie keeps prodding. Joel just wants to take him out immediately. He's sometimes way too quick to do. Eugene promised to stand far back, had his gun at him the whole time, so it was a completely safe, controlled environment. But even when Joel said to Ellie, go on ahead, she said yes, but she knew that he was going to do it anyways. It was interesting that it kind of all ties into, they used Eugene as a way to show Joel and how when he lied about not shooting Eugene, that was how Ellie realizes that he did lie. In fact, he was the one that shot the doctor and took her off the operating table. And these were all things that she had kind of suspected anyways, but now he finally said it. But there was a big emotional moment at the end of the episode where they tie back to the beginning of the season where Ellie and Dina have a kissing moment, and then Seth calls him Dykes and Joel pushes him. And by this time, Ellie was already pissed at him anyways. And then they show the moment where Ellie's walking by the house and we think she might go talk to him, but then she continues on into the shed. We see the part that we didn't see earlier where Ellie came back and they had a little talk. Finally, Ellie hears it, although at the same time, the way that Joel says it is that she just shakes his head. When she asked if there were other that were immune, and he just shook his head no. But you were going to die. And Ellie said, well, at least I would have had a purpose. That moment was pretty hard. Find your life's purpose. She believed that that was her purpose, so I don't really think that that's what she believes her purpose is. She just wanted to have any kind of purpose. So you can understand how upset she would be, even though she spent the last 4 or 5 years basically already knowing it. But then Joel finally says it out loud after she sees his face when he lies to her about not killing Eugene. So then we now finally get to see as to why they have an actual character play Eugene. This was Joey Pantaleone. This was his big moment. A whole 5 minutes. I'm assuming we're never going to see him again. Then we get to see Gail's reaction, and Joel just straight up lies and essentially says that he didn't want to see her and he loved her and blah blah blah, saying all this nice stuff that I guess is nice. Ellie's had enough, and she's straight up like, no, that's not what happened. Joel shot him. He told me he wouldn't, but he shot him. She didn't want you to go see you one last time. And then it all blows up. That was that moment where I was wondering, okay, is that how Joel's going to know that she knows? Because even though at that moment, neither of them said it out loud, when she says you swore, she meant the end of season 1, when she made him swear that everything he said was true. Why she said you swore at that moment is a callback to season 1. As lovely as this episode may or may not have been, it still, to me, is just essentially filler. Once again, the story did not really go ahead, other than we saw the developments between Joel and Ellie. It was obvious that Ellie always knew, but I guess she just needed to hear him actually say it. But that was an emotional moment between Joel and Ellie when they were on his porch, and they were both crying, and Ellie this could have been her purpose. That's not really what her purpose is. She finds her purpose later on. But at the time, that is what she believed that her purpose was at a ripe old age of 19. This episode does circle back to some parts from the beginning of the season. The ending almost doesn't even seem necessary, with the last 15 seconds is we see Ellie walking in the rain. You almost forgot for a second, okay, is this current Ellie or are we still in flashback Ellie? All we see is her walking back into the theater that they're staying in. I've already forgotten. Jesse and Dina are still there because I know Dina got shot in the leg with an arrow last episode. Are Jesse and Dina in that theater right now? Does that mean that the next episode is just going to be them? I mean, I was kind of hoping there had been more of an interesting reason as to why Joel killed Eugene. I figured he would have been bitten. I was hoping that maybe he didn't, but he did something creepy or gross. I thought maybe he would discover that Ellie is immune. Joel doesn't want anyone to know, which is... I'm kind of curious as to why at this point they're still keeping it secret. Maybe Joel somehow thinks that anyone who finds out is immediately going to try to get an antidote out of her, as if everyone's a doctor and knows how to do that. But using Eugene as a way to show how Ellie essentially confirmed what she already knew about Joel lying, and then saying that that was the same face he made. I mean, I guess that's how they did it in the games. I don't remember all that stuff in the games exactly, if that was how she remembered, and she used Joel's expression as. But Joel makes no apologies. Actually, when they're having their moment, Joel said, "If I had my time back, I would do it the same. I would do it all again." He would still save her no matter what. Ellie's too young to understand that. It's this moment there that ties back to the opening where his father says, "When your time comes, I hope you do a little better than me." And that's what Joel says to her. Joel using that quote does help the opening make more sense and not just feel. I've never liked flashbacks. Next week is episode 7, the very last one. And what will actually happen? How much will we learn? I think it's going to be the longest episode of the season, on over an hour maybe. This one was only like 53, 54. I mean, there was a slightly interesting moment where I believe it's the day of her 19th birthday. He takes her out on patrol because he somehow managed to keep her from actually doing it. But then they're out and the radio goes off, and that's how they find Eugene. So, did we actually really learn a whole lot this episode? Well, we learned that I say the word episode a lot. I wish there was another word that I could say, because it gets on my nerves, I say it so much. But we finally learned the history between Joel and Ellie. Pretty accurate depiction of how they handle it in the games. And some even shot-for-shot moments from the Space Museum get me in the feels, and I admittedly teared up a little. Writing wise, I don't think Neil Druckmann is the strongest live action writer. Like, he wrote this game. Him writing the episode 2, to me, like I said earlier, just feels like, well, how much writing did he actually do? Does he just basically take the same script from the game, even though the game script is probably like hundreds, maybe even thousands of pages, but just took all that moment in the game and put it in a smaller version and then edit it down so it was about an hour long? Makes me curious as a screenwriter how one would do that. If you are adapting your game that you wrote into a show, how much do you actually change? One thing that they did change that I didn't like was when they were in the Space Museum. They're looking around and Ellie is kind of amazed, and the fact that this area exists should be kind of a bigger deal. Joel's hiding it from everyone, and I'm saying, why would you hide it? Wouldn't that be a great place for people to hold up in? To more people from Jackson? Like, they don't really show how far outside of Jackson this area is. How is it that only Joel knows about this? It seems like other people should know. Again, it does show Joel's selfishness, which is what Ellie said to him. He could easily tell people about this location and use it as a separate base or a place for other people to live, or you could do all types of things with this location. But instead, he doesn't tell anyone, considering that it somehow magically still works. But the moment where they're about to get into the Apollo, but the moment they changed that I didn't like was when they were about to get into the space pod, and Joel picks up a rock and just gives it to Ellie and says, "Pick out a helmet." And immediately I thought, oh, she's not going to throw a rock through a glass case with a ancient artifact. I mean, it's a museum, so it already was an artifact, and now it's been how many years? So it's still there in the museum, and it's still in pretty great condition. But now here's Ellie vandalizing the place, throwing a rock through a glass window, and taking out this helmet that was still in great shape. Why they decided to change that when in the games Ellie just picks up a helmet? It's on a stand, it's on a display stand, but there's no glass. So why they decided to add her basically vandalizing? I don't understand, because that just kind of makes both of them look like assholes. What they found here is precious, and they're treating it like it's junk. They found this really amazing location that's still in pretty good condition. I mean, this is a museum. This is a museum of a museum. It's still around. It still exists, and they shouldn't be hiding it. But they shouldn't be vandalizing it either.
I want a motherfucking dinosaur!
The second to last episode of season 2 of The Last of Us. It's a shame it's coming to an end, but it's also a shame that they pretty much wasted all of the last episode, and then now when an entire flashback didn't even really need to be needed, or could be a lot shorter, or they could have squeezed it in. I knew what to expect, but I still was a little disappointed. I feel like this season started off strong, but now it's gotten weaker, and it's only got one episode left to go out on a high note. And will it go out on a cliffhanger? Will the season end on Ellie, or will they transition over to Abby? Because I am surprised that they haven't shown Abby at all. Will they show her one more time, or will we not see her at all until the beginning of next season? which could be another solid 2 years. It's hard to say. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say that they would perhaps transition to Abby halfway through the next episode. I think they're just going to keep going with Ellie until the very end, and then perhaps there'll be but will it be a cliffhanger? I mean, the way season 1 ended, it wasn't so much a cliffhanger, it was just Ellie straight up just saying, okay. To me, I think an actual cliffhanger could be what happens. Will there be a showdown at the very end? Will there be something happening between Ellie and Abby or Ellie and Dina? Just as it's crazy that it's already almost over for season 2 of The Last of Us. I was looking forward to it. It has gotten a slightly disappointing on the last 2 episodes, so there's only one left. What am I going to do after that? The only other adaptation I know that's coming this year will be Fallout Season 2 in December, which is amazing that that's coming out so soon. The season started out really strong, and at one point I thought maybe it could be better, but now I think it's already too late. The ship has sailed. No matter how good the next episode might be, it's still not going to be. Season 2 will not at the end be as good as season 1. Season 1 was pretty much flawless. I think so anyways. It was a lot for season 2 to live up to, but that is it for my review of the second to last episode of season 2 of The Last of Us. But before I leave, my friends, don't forget to take a second to like and to subscribe, because it really helps me out. But above all else, don't forget to keep gaming.